I love how they do that.
Okay, it's recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Chatterbox. I'm Owen,
I'm Lucas.
I'm Sam.
and the topic of this episode will be if the moon landing was a hoax.
All right.
So-
The first thing that people are skeptical about is that NASA took multiple photos that they claimed were miles apart, and the backgrounds look exactly the same. But their reasoning for this is that because the moon's mountains are so tall and there aren't that many, if you walk far away from one, they're still going to look the same. So that's their reasoning for that.
Okay, another hoax theory is that on one of the rocks in a picture there is a very symmetrical looking sea, but the picture is a third generation image, which means it's been changed at least 3 times is what NASA says. So the original picture did not have the sea in it. So what NASA thinks is that somebody may have changed the picture, or some hair got on one of the lenses when they were changing the picture or whatever.
And the reason that would be suspicious is because it looks like a prop.
Yeah,
Like
it looks
somebody-
like they put the sea on props to make sure they know where the rock goes or whatever.
Another point is that on a lot of pictures from the moon, there are no stars in the sky. But NASA's excuse for this is that just like eyes, cameras need to adjust to the nighttime light.
So basically, you look up, you're in the city, and then you look up and the stars are, kind of hard to see because of all the extra lights.
And then you sit out there for a while in the darkness, and then you can see the whole
Yeah.
sky.
Cameras need it
Exactly.
at the same time. On the cameras that the astronauts used, they put crosshairs so the astronauts could easily line up the photos. On one of these photos, though, an object was somehow looked like it was in front of the crosshairs, but in photography, if there is a thin black object in front of a really bright object, which would be the piece of thing that looked like it was in front of the crosshair, it would make the crosshair
The
look
contrast
transparent.
would overlap with the black and white, and so then it would look like it just disappeared.
Exactly.
So the next one is that the Hubble telescope, after they had claimed to send a bunch of rovers to the moon to take pictures and collect samples, NASA declined people's request to have the Hubble telescope go take pictures of those rovers after they had stayed there for a while. So people found that to be suspicious. They claimed that the Hubble telescope was not anywhere near, and it would just be way too expensive.
So there's this thing called the Van Allen radiation belt, which is basically just like this thing around the Earth. So the spaceships, they need a heat shield in order to get through that, right? But they say that the heat shield would burn from the radiation belt. But NASA says that it's made of it's made of aluminum, which reflects 94.5% of radiation.
And then NASA also said they double shielded it. They had aluminum on the outside of the spaceship and the inside, so it had a better chance of not melting. So the astronauts, a point to support that they actually did go to the moon was the astronauts brought back hundreds of independently verified moon rocks. But the only problem with this is that the moon rocks were verified by NASA, so they could easily just say they were moon rocks, even if they might not have been.
People thought that when the rocket came down, or the shuttle, at that point, it's not really a rocket anymore, came down, it would leave a crater, because when you think of something impacting into the Earth, you would think that there'd be a plume of smoke and a hole in the ground. But what NASA said is that they have booster rockets. I sound like I'm from Star Wars. They allow the shuttle to come down lightly with only minimal smoke.
And
So-
a thing that people believe is, from watching all these space movies, rockets launch 800 rockets into the ground to slow themselves down. It really doesn't take that much, or that's what NASA at least claims. We don't know much about rockets. Or
And I mean,
whatever.
I've seen where they shoot out little puffs of air to slow themselves down.
And of course, another question is who filmed Armstrong, right? If he was really the first one on the moon,
Who set up the camera?
who set up the camera outside? But it was actually Buzz Aldrin who had a movie camera running from the window of the lunar module, and they just developed the film later. And there was also a camera that was mounted on the descent stage. As Armstrong descended off of the steps, he pulled a cord that deployed the camera and started the recording.
The flag which we all know is the famous picture standing on the moon, people were wondering why it was waving in space. How could that happen? There's no wind. And the simple explanation for this is that when you send a flag into the ground, it's going to move back and forth even if there is no gravity. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We know it was a little shorter. We hope you still found it interesting, and if you believed that the moon landing was fake, we hope you have changed your mind by now.
Okay, goodbye.